Good morning and happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to November So Fun here at Quality Sewing and Vacuum. We're excited to share lots of fun projects and techniques with you. We will have 2 door prize drawings during this presentation. You're automatically entered by liking, sharing, or commenting on this presentation while we are live. If your name is drawn, please send us a private message and let us know what store you'd like to pick your prize up, as well as a phone number so a team member can call you and let you know that it's ready for pickup. Shortly after we are done with the live feed, you'll be able to post a picture of your show and tell items. Just add it as a comment. We will choose a random winner on Monday, November 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The products will be available at the discounted rate until Sunday, December 5th. So if you're interested in purchasing any of the products, please do it by Sunday, December 5th, and it will be at the discounted price. We will not have a Facebook Live during the month of December. Instead, we're having our annual holiday party open house events at each of our 11 locations. It's a fun-filled event with great company, food, lots of show and tell, and multiple door prizes. We are again collecting food items and cash donations for Northwest Harvest. The La Ponte family matches all donations, so your donation is in effect doubled. That's great. Please go to our website, www.qualitysewing.com, and register for the time and location that works best for you. Registration is mandatory for all of our in-store events, and I just would like to tell you that there are multiple times that you can register. So we're having multiple open houses at the different stores, so it's not just one time. We will be back with our January So Fun virtual presentation on January 28th at 10 a.m. And now let's start showing you all the fun ideas and projects we have to share with you today. Okay, Pam?
Sure, let's go. Where do I start?
let's show them the panels first.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Talk about Better Not Pout.
So I think, honestly, quite a few of us have worked in these art-to-heart books before, and this one was probably one of my favorites. I don't know about you, Anne, but I did a ton of stuff out of it. The Better Not Pout was probably one of the first ones I've come across with their own fabric line, and we do carry the charm packs for that. And I did notice in my travels that some of the stores actually carried the layer cakes or some strips. Anyway, so the panel that comes with the Better Not Pout book is adorable. It is called, the Better Not Pout line of fabric. So if you were looking at the computer, we had to differentiate between the two. So this one is actually what we call the Better Not Pout panel, and it's cute. It's got the truck and the angel, some ornaments, and a cat and a dog. So that's a lot of fun. And then the other one is the Making a List panel, and that one has the Santa Claus, the snowman, the reindeer, and the cardinal. But I have a fun little story to share with you, and it's just, I think that if you've seen me on these feeds before, you'll totally understand this. Sometimes I don't read instructions until I absolutely have to. I do know I'm not the only one who does that, but I do admit to doing that. So when Lori sent me these panels to make the bags, because I had signed up to make bags, I looked at it and said, wait a minute, she made a mistake and she sent me stockings. And the instructions for the stockings are on the panel. So what I did do is I got online and I looked up the panels for the bags. And I ordered some. Well, I got them, and when I opened it up, it was stockings. So something happened there. Maybe I did something wrong and clicked the wrong box. So I ordered from another store online, and except this time I ordered 2 sets of each for the bags. So then they came and they were all folded up, and they had some extra fabric in there, and it was wonderful. And I opened them up and oh my gosh, they were the stockings. So you know what I had to do at that point? I did open the book and I did read the instructions, and I was just so thrilled to find out that the actual bags are made from the stocking panels. So I now can make a lot of stockings, and I will do so because I'm going to then donate them to a charity. So because I have quite a few panels. So anyway, I thought that was a fun story. Tells a lot about me, my whole chaotic self.
I have one
Oh,
too.
go ahead, Ann. Tell your story. I love it.
Well, I will when I get to the sample.
Oh, okay, perfect,
Okay.
perfect. So, go ahead. Did you have something to say about the
No,
Mandarin?
go ahead and
Okay.
show your stuff, and then I'll show mine.
So, I really did have a lot of fun. So, if you look, if our camera person would so gladly show the stockings out front, I did actually make all the stockings. And again, the stockings themselves are not in the book because all of the instructions are on the panel for the stockings. I did want to point out that you probably will want to add a loop to that because it doesn't say to do that. What it does say to do on these panels, and I thought it was interesting, it was a lot of fun, and I did follow the instructions, is that you actually put your panel, you have just the panel top, and then you do your own backing and your own lining. So I put the panel with the batting together and I quilted it. Put the lining in, so the front lining, and then I put a piece of binding, which it says to do, on either side of the stocking. Then you do 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and you do a binding on top of that. So I will have to tell you what I maybe wasn't my favorite thing, and I had to figure out how to make it look a little bit nicer, because when I started at the top with that thickness, the machine pushed it down, so then I get a little bit of a raw edge there that I wasn't too thrilled with, but it's okay, I can fix that. So what I finally started to do was I actually started to then just sew them at the tops and not put the bindings. This particular one I could have sewn around and done my binding around the edge, but I really did put the lining. I sewed it out all the way around flat. It left an opening at the bottom of the lining and pulled it inside out. And then another one I made, oh, here it is. I put a cuff on it. So there you have something now that you can embroider if you wanted to, a child's name or your loved one's name, and that was a lot of fun. I do try to always use the fabrics if I can from Quality Sewing. So my lining on this one is the grunge fabric, and they're 108 inches wide for this particular fabric. So a 1/2 yard gives me a lot of projects. So that was a lot of fun to do. I really enjoyed doing the stockings. And I do recommend following the instructions for the first one and then just being creative after that. So it's a lot of fun. On the actual truck, I outlined it. I did my quilting in a metallic red, and that was a lot of fun. So right now you can't see it in this light, but it has a little sparkle to it. So the next thing I did, oh gosh, you guys, this was so much fun. Look at my little snowman towel. In the book, there are so many projects. There's towels, there's potholders, there's piece, there's applique, there's quilts, there's wall hangings, there's table runners. It just goes on and on. But this was my towel, but the snowman itself was cut out for the hot pad, but I wanted to use him because I think he's peeking out around the corner of my towel, and I just love it. Now I do have room for a tree if I want to, and wasn't this border fun? Little snowman border, and I lined it with the polka dots. Anyway, so that was just a cute thing to do. His hat has the berries, it calls for buttons, and I just did French knots, so those were really cute. Now the Santa Claus, again, I had fun with him. I'm going to take him down and show you. One thing I thought was interesting when I did this, oops, my snowman, I actually did a blanket stitch in a metallic white. Well, it doesn't show against his beard. So the next one I did was a potholder, same Santa Claus, but I did it with the black. Much different. He really pops now. So I do like my Santa Claus. These little tiny eyes I just got at a craft store. They're buttons. I could put them right on for my sewing machine. So again, just being creative and having fun with the fabrics that you use. There is the line of Better Not Pout fabrics, and they were a lot of fun to use. I did them in a lot of different applications, but on this one I got a little bit more whimsical and a little more creative with my Santa Claus. I really liked his striped hat. So this set is going to go to my daughter-in-law so that my grandson, I think, will like him. So that was a lot of fun to do. Anne, I'm going to let you talk about what you did with your projects for that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to grab this little quilt right here, and I'm going to tell you my story. This is an applique quilt, and if you notice, if you were to look at the picture in the book, the colors are different, but I decided that I would make my granddaughter a wall quilt because she has 2 cats and a dog. And one thing that I've learned over COVID is I have become a dog lover. I have a grand dog, and this is a picture of him. And so I decided that I wanted to make her a little wall quilt because she just moved out in her first apartment, and I think she'll really like it. Let me just tell you my journey. I always tell people, you probably think that we do everything by the book. Well, that is not the case. We are humans and we do things differently. Well, guess what? This is supposed to be the size of the quilt here, but when I got piecing it, what I did was I backed my fabric with some SF101, which is a fusible interfacing, just to give it a little more body, and then you were supposed to piece the blue and the white, and I got it all pieced. I cut out my applique. And this dog is a little bit different because Chug is our grand dog, and he is a cross between a chow and a pug. He has one ear up and one ear down, and so I put one ear up and one ear down. I got everything on here. Hannah has a couple of tabby cats, Huck and Finn, and so I changed all the colors. I got it all appliqued on, and then I looked in the book, and guess what? The white was supposed to be up here, and the blue was supposed to be down here. Well, then we decided that we would bring in this alphabet from OSD, and it's called the penned alphabet. It has uppercase and lowercase letters, and you just put it into your embroidery software. And I thought, you know, I've got to show how to use that. So I just embroidered Peace on Earth, which is the title of this quilt, and then I just stitched it onto here. And then I thought, okay, I need to make it look like it was supposed to be that way. So what I did was I just added some rickrack. And so if I wouldn't have told you the process of this, and I tell you that because we all do it, and it's just something natural that we do. Sometimes things just don't go from A, B, C, D. They sort of take a little detour, and this kind of took a detour for me. And a lot of times what I do when there's a lot going on for my applique, I just use monofilament thread with just a regular pre-wound bobbin in the bobbin case, and then I just do a very small zigzag stitch. Now, if you want to, I had a lot of questions as I was traveling around the stores, what kind of a needle do you want to use? And I will tell you that when I do it, and this is my personal preference, I just use an Inspira 75 needle, embroidery needle, because it has the biggest eye on the market, and then you don't get a lot of the drag and the stress, which will break your thread, and I don't have any problems with it. If you have any problems with the monofilament thread, put in a needle that has a big eye. You can use a top stitch needle if you want, and you can also put a thread net on it if you want to do that. If you notice in our newer machines, a lot of them have the thread stands up higher, and that's to take the twist out of the thread, and that really helps when you're using monofilament thread. So that's kind of my story of just kind of trying to complete it and make it look good.
I wanted to add something to Anne's comment about how we kind of get creative with our thoughts. So I heard something about we learn from our mistakes, and honestly, I would have thought I'd be perfect by now if that was the case. But I'm still, I guess I'm a slow learner, so I'm working on that.
I think we're all working on it. Okay, this is another one. It's a little snowman quilt, and I decided that I wanted to do some different things on this quilt, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to make it into a pillow or a quilt, but I ended up making it into a little wall quilt. I also backed the fabric, and this is actually from Quality Sewing. It's one of the 108-inch wide quilt backings, and I had it left over from a project that I was doing. So I backed it with some SF101, and then I put my applique on. Now on this one, I did not want to stitch around because I wanted to use a quilting design. And chances are this wall quilt is never going to get washed. If you're going to wash your product, then you need to stitch around it some way. You can use a blanket stitch like Pam did. You can use a zigzag stitch with monofilament thread or matching thread. There's a lot of different things that you can do. But I decided I wanted to use one of the edge-to-edge quilting designs. This is a new one from Amelie Scott, and it has 10 different quilting designs here on the back. And I have to tell you that this is my very favorite. It works great. I've done it on baby quilts. I've done it on table runners. In fact, you're going to see a table runner that I did this particular pattern on. But I chose the honeycomb for my little wall quilt because I thought it kind of looked like snowballs. And so there is only 6 minutes of quilting on this entire quilt. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do edge-to-edge quilting. And one of them is to use templates. And if you're just starting out, I would suggest that you do this, that you get familiar with a template. I did this, but now they've come out with you just kind of wing it with the big magnetic hoops, and you just kind of flip the top up over the body of your machine and move your quilt around and match up, because there are points here to match up. If you see, I've got a template A and a template B, and they match up perfectly. So if you're just starting out, I would do this, but then once you're familiar with it, you can do the faster method of just starting out with a template and then just kind of moving it as you would like. But it really, really is a fast and a great way to get that long arm look if you don't have a long arm. And so that's what I did here. And then to do this little rope here, I just used a triple straight stitch. And I know Lana last month talked about the triple straight stitch. I've talked about it many times in So Fun. It's a wonderful stitch. I just used some dressmaker's tracing paper, just traced it and then stitched it. Now, how many of you sew your buttons on by machine? I know Pam mentioned that. If you're not using your button sewing program, which will be on all of your machines, you're really missing out. Well, I did it on these two, but on these little crystal buttons, I could have done that, but I decided to just get my glue gun out and use that. Okay, let me just talk about the gift bags. The gift bags are really easy to make, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your panel and you're going to lay a ruler on it, and you're going to cut it 8.5 inches, and guess what? These panels are 8.5 inches wide. So what I did was I laid my 8.5 by 18.5 inch ruler and just made a rectangle. And then what you do is you just stitch them together. There will be a little lining here at the top. It doesn't go all the way down. And then the casing, let me show you. I'll just, okay, I'm gonna do that. Maybe undo this one. The casing is just top stitched on. Let me undo it here so you can see. Very, very easy way to stitch the casing on. So it's just top stitched on. So those are just really fast and fun. You can put anything you want in for the holidays. It could be for kids. It could great wine carrier if you do wine or cider or cookies or whatever. Okay, the last things that I wanted to talk about are my towels.
I'm going to hand this to you so you can announce that, please.
Yep, I will do that.
Thank you.
Do you want me to do it right now, or?
When you're done,
Let me just finish the towels
Yeah.
here. Okay, I wanted to show a different way to use the panels. And so I decided to just use the panel as an applique on this towel. And one of the things that I've learned during COVID is that you use what you have. And so I just had a bunch of towels, and I decided we're going to go ahead and use them up. And so what I did was I put a lightweight fusible web on the back, and then I stitched diagonal lines here so that when I wash it, the applique is so big I don't want it to you know, come undone and stuff like that. And then all I did was put some rickrack around it to frame it. And all of these just came out of my sewing center. This one is a total applique. And if you buy the book has two different sizes of appliques. It has the large size, and then it has a smaller size. And this one, I actually reduced down a little bit to about 75% because I wanted it smaller for the towel. And it's just a plain applique. I used scraps left from the fat quarters of this line. And then I did a little ruffle here. And so that's what I want to do for my demo, and I'm going to move over to the demo. But first we're going to go ahead and draw for our door prize. And this is a Quilter's Date Keeper here, and it goes to Heather Gunderson. So Heather, if you will contact us through Facebook, we will go ahead and get your information and see where you can pick this up.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move over to the demo station. Pam, will you hand me my stiletto?
Yes. I would say catch, but that would be not very nice.
Thank you. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to demo how you can get wonderful ruffles like this without doing anything, and it is with the gathering foot for your machine. Now there's three different ways you can gather. You can gather the traditional way, you can gather with your serger, or you can gather with your sewing machine. And one of the things about this is you can do a lot tighter gathering on your conventional sewing machine than you can on your serger. Your serger gives beautiful gathers, but it doesn't do it as tight as these. And so I want you to look at the foot. Now, all of your machines will have this foot. And what it is, it might be rounded here or flat across. But if you can see the tunnel right here, you can do two things with this foot. You can put whatever you want to be gathered, whatever you want to gather onto, you put through this tunnel. Whatever fabric, the strip of fabric that you're gathering, you put underneath the foot. The foot has some little teeth here that pulls it through. Now there is a couple of things that you need to know to use this, and one of them is you need to go to your longest stitch length. So I'm on the performance icon, and I go up to a 5.0 stitch length. And then you're going to want to up your needle tension. And I went on my machine, I have a creative icon, I went all the way up to like from 4.6 up to 9.2. I found as I was traveling around, machines are a little bit different. So I have this one set up at 8.0. And what you're going to do is you're going to just use the edge of the presser foot as your guide, and then you're going to go ahead and start gathering, and you'll see that it's going to start gathering up. And see how nice that is and how many gathers. Now, if your needle thread breaks, that means that your needle tension is too tight and you need to just bump it down a little bit. But if you notice, look at the beautiful gathering that you get, and then you can just apply it to whatever you want. I used to gather the conventional way with doing the 2 threads and gathering. I don't do that anymore. Another thing that you can do is you can ruche. And if you notice, this kind of dips like this, because this gathering, this was my sample that I did just to test it out. This gathering is tighter than this gathering. So you can determine how many gathers you want. The question always comes up, how much do you cut? Well, if you're going to do a lot of gathering, you're going to want to cut 3 times the length of your towel or whatever you're putting it on. You might have a little bit left over, but it's so much easier to have some left over than not have enough. So Carrie, if you could come around this side, I wanted to demo something that I used on my little wall quilts. We have a new set of rulers. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. They are the folded, whoops, let me get them this way. The folded corner clipper rulers. We have an extra large and we have a small. These are wonderful. I found them this summer, and they have changed my feeling about binding quilts. I hate to stitch. You know, when you're doing your quilt bindings, you're going to probably be drawing your diagonal line and then making your miter. Well, with this, you don't have to do that. It cuts all of that out, and it also cuts the dog ears off. Dog ears, to me, I try to be as precise as I can, and those darn dog ears sometimes get in the way. And so when you're doing this technique, you can cut 4 binding strips at once. And so what you're going to do is you're going to, if you notice here on the ruler, we have 1 to 5 inches, and then on the larger ruler we have 1 to 10 inches. So you can do borders, you can do binding, you can do sashings, and you don't have to draw that diagonal line, and everything matches up perfectly. So how do you do this? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to take your strips, either your 2.5, sometimes I use 2.5, sometimes I use 3. You're going to lay them down with the right side facing up, and you can probably do 4 at a time. I probably wouldn't do more than 4 at a time. And then what you want to do, I flip this ruler over because you want to get a nice straight cut. Whoops. I'm not used to sitting down to do this. And then if you notice on the ruler, here's the 2.5 inch mark. I'm going to bring it so that it lines up here and it lines up there. If you can see that. And then all I have to do is cut this off. I guess my rotary cutter is getting a little dull. Then you just flip it around like this, and it matches up perfect. You do your 1/4 inch seam, and you've got a perfect match. And this is a 6.5 inch border that I did. I can't even find where I stitched them together, right here, because they match perfectly at each end here, and your dog ears are cut off. And so this has been revolutionary for me, because I got really tired of drawing all those lines and not being able to do it fast, and I like to do it fast. Now, there are different things that you can use it for. You can use it for cornered rectangle blocks, flying geese blocks, diamonds in a square, and snowballs. And all those little darn dog ears are cut off, and you're much more precise when you use something like this. So that is one of my favorite things. And then I also wanted to just talk about the Seamstick. If you are wanting to press any small area, I use these more than I use my point pressers and all that. I have all that equipment, but I have these by my ironing board, and I use them whenever I need to get into a small space. The wonderful thing about this is we've had seam sticks before, but they haven't had the wool covering. So if you use a sleeve on it, usually when you pull it out, the sleeve comes off. This is attached. This is actually Australian wool, and you can use it for pressing your seams open, but you can also use it as a point, as a pound clapper, and trap that steam. So this is great if you're interested in that. So Pam, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Just 1 minute. We had a couple people ask, does the foot that you use for the gathering come with the foot, or is that an accessory foot?
It's an accessory foot. It is an accessory foot. It does not come with your machine. So yeah, but it's well worth it if you do a lot of gathering. It's so easy.
Okay, so I do have to say that Ann and I have been thinking along the same lines, because I was actually going to show you how to use that ruler, or I have shown it in my presentations, and Ann and I do, she does the north end, I do the south end. So we did have kind of the same thing. I absolutely love that ruler for doing my bias binding, or just binding in general. You know, when you come to the end and you have to then try to put the two ends together, I'm doing this constantly, so it really does kind of alleviate that, and I just, boom, it's right there. So I absolutely agree with Ann. I love that ruler. So I feel like it's, if you're going to do any kind of quilting, it might be a must-have. So anyway, moving on, I wanted to bring up the Annie's Stiletto, and this is by Annie's Stiletto. It's wonderful. You know, we all have lots of different stilettos. This one I found to be absolutely fantastic. The reason I liked it is, one, it has a sharp point. Pretty much, I'd say most stilettos have a sharp point, but let's see if I can get that back on. What I did like about it was this end. So this gives me a nice little pressing end. And I can use my pressing bar if I wanted to, and I'm right by my sewing machine, and I'm going to use it to press open. Okay, but what I liked it for even more than that was the fact that this is wide. One of the things I could use it for was I can hold my seam open, and then I can press without burning my fingers. A lot of our stilettos have a much narrower end than this, and I really did end up using it for actually holding my seam open. The next thing I actually have is the seam roller, and works totally, absolutely fantastic with this flat seam bar. So if I have this next to my machine and I don't have my iron out, I am actually going to push here, and I'm going to press that open with very little effort, because there's a lot of weight behind this seam roller. Also, it's wood. So I have one that looks just like this. That is my grandmother. So this has been a tried and true style for a very long time. What I will say, when I set this on my sewing table, I will not get a flat spot. So a lot of times, eventually our rollers get a flat spot. This does not, because it is wood. And with this seam bar, because it is padded with the wool, it will give me a nice flat seam. And I will say, with the seam bar, and I think Ann would agree with this, if I am going to use it with my iron, I get a very flat seam, but I also, it kind of, on a lighter weight fabric, it helps to, doesn't completely, but helps to eliminate ridges. So I do like that a lot. So And I do have a lot of these seam bars, but not this style. So I really did like that a lot. So along with the seam roller is perfect. So the By Annie Stiletto I happened to use while making this bag. And this is called the City Bag Auntie's 2 pattern, and it's called the City Bag Downtown. This is the small version. We brought this pattern in, and it's available through us, but there is also others available in the same line that are different sizes if you're interested in them. But this is, I'm going to show you how this opens. It reminds me of an old carpet bag, or let's see, Mary Poppins. So it's going to open up square like that. I do not have my bottom in mind because I wanted to show you how it was put together. I found that this was a really fun one to make. Really, I like to use the word easy, and that may not be fair because it may not be easy to everybody, but it was much easier than some others I have made. What I really liked about this is it starts out with a rectangle that's approximately 15 by 26. And I start building the bag on top of that rectangle. At first I have my double-sided fusible foam, and I put my bag front and my bag lining on that so it's fused on. The next thing I do is I actually will use my chocolate liner, and it tells me where to put the lines for quilting. It says let's see, it was 13 inches in from either edge to get the center. And then we went 1 inch apart, 6 lines to the left, 6 lines to the right with your chocolate liner. When you start stitching those, however, it tells you also to skip several lines. And the reason why is you go back and you finish your pocket and you place that onto the bag while it's still flat. And then when you finish those lines, you have now just created the sections to your pocket. How easy is that? And that is just amazing. I just love that. The majority of the bag is built while it is flat, so the handles are put on, the lines it's quilted, and then what I really did love about this pattern is as you're reading the instructions, which I did, you will have a little camera besides the different paragraphs in the instructions, and the camera means there's a video to watch. And that video is so helpful, especially if you're new to this. So, the video talked about making the handles, putting the zipper in, which I really appreciated, and then putting the frame in. So this does have a frame. It does come with the pattern. And if you choose not to put the frame in, it actually looks like this over here without the frame. Very cute. It also in the instructions tells you how you can make it into a lunch bag. So again, a very fun, quite easy and detailed pattern, because I even have the padded tabs for the zipper, and there was a pattern in there, directions to make the little bow for the zipper pulls. So again, this is an Auntie's 2 pattern and comes out absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed making that. And Anne, did you have anything to add to this?
Well, I'm just going to show you this. This is just a great pattern for focusing your fabric, and so this is one just showing you how to focus the fabric. This one I made just as a sewing kit, and knew if I put the handles on it, I wouldn't use it because I like to buy purses. So I thought I would just make it as a sewing kit. And this is the Tula Pink line here, and you may find it in the fabric stores. We used to have it in our store, but it's an older fabric, and so it's gone. I think most of our stores don't have it anymore. So let's go ahead and move on, and we are going to talk about this pattern right here. This is the gallery tunic and dress. This is from Liesel and Company, and I've done 3 or 4 of her patterns. I really like them because they come in size 0 to size 20. They also have large bust adjustments if any of us need the large bust adjustment. Usually I do that, but I didn't do that on this pattern it comes in straight sizes. It's not small, medium, large. It comes in the straight sizes. It is quite generous in the fitting, and so I'm going to show you and tell you a little bit about this. This one is the one that I made, and I've actually been in this sewing industry a long time, and I've done lots of plackets, but this placket is by far the easiest that I've ever done, because you don't have to worry about that little triangle when you do a placket. You have to stitch across. She's taking care of that for you. This pattern has 4 pieces. It has a 1-piece collar, or you can do a Mandarin collar. It has the front, the back, and the sleeves. And you notice here in the front, you get a nice little pleat here, so it makes it easy to move. And then in the back, there's an inverted pleat, and it makes it very nice. Now, this is a longer cut, which is nice because it covers up what we don't want people to see. And it also looks great with leggings or tight-fitting jeans or pants or things like that. The fabric is one that I knew what I wanted, and I looked and looked and looked. And most of the time when you work with plaids, they're printed off grain, and so if you buy a plaid shirt, chances are it's not going to match the side seams. But I come from a tailoring background, and I just have to match plaids. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to deal with any of that. So I kind of had this in mind, and I went to Joann's to see what kind of flannel they had, and I looked at all the shirting flannels, and I thought, no, that's just not what I want. So I was walking around, and I was kind of by the kids' flannels, and I kind of turned like this, and I looked up, and I saw this, and guess what it is? It is a 108-inch wide quilter's flannel backing. And so I bought 1.5 yards, and it's really wide. I have enough to make pajamas for my little grandsons out of the rest of it. But I will tell you that I'm really very pleased with the hand of this fabric. I brought it home, washed it, took it out of my dryer, and I have a washer that twists a lot, and I had hardly any wrinkles. We took it out this morning out of the box. Had been in there for
A week, yeah, or yesterday.
yeah, and you just hang it up, and it's great. It's very, very fun to wear. It has 3/4 length sleeves. You can put a contrasting cuff. I just folded this up.
So a question has come in, what is a Mandarin collar?
A Mandarin collar, if you know the Asian designs, they have a little collar that just wraps around the neck, and it kind of angles down here. It only stands up about
Barely an inch.
Yeah, just an inch. And so it just kind of hugs the neck. This one, it folds back. The Mandarin collar just kind of stands up and just kind of hugs your neck here. And you see it in a lot of Asian clothing and things like that.
And back in the 70s, I think they called it a Nehru collar, and then also
Oh,
it's known as
true.
a tab collar.
Yeah.
So there are different.
Oh, in front of this is the Mandarin. You want to hold that up?
Yeah, that one. Can you?
I'm going to grab that from you. This is the
Yeah.
Mandarin collar.
Can you see how it just kind of falls around the neck?
And is this a beginner or an advanced pattern?
It's a beginner pattern. I did most of it on my serger, but when you're doing the collar and the placket, you need to do that on your conventional machine. Let me see what she calls this. Let's see. A band collar. She calls it a band collar, but I've known it as a Mandarin collar, but she calls it a band collar, so that it's the same thing.
So let me borrow that for just a minute so I can add a few things if you don't mind.
You bet.
So this is Anne's, and I absolutely love it. And of course, Anne matched all her tiny little plaids. Mine is not here because mine is currently in timeout. Mine was not playing very nice with me, and not behaving, but I made a beautiful one, you guys, and I'm sorry it's not here. I was doing the band collar. I did a very big rayon buffalo plaid, and it wasn't my shirt's problem. It probably there's a certain time of night that you maybe should quit sewing, and I didn't. So I was reading the instructions. I keep telling you guys I don't. So when I do, maybe I try to make it something that it's not. So I kept reading it thinking it was supposed to be, I wanted it to be something else, and I read it enough times that it actually was there. So I did that. I finished off my facing before I put the collar in it. And then I got to the next step and went, oh, the collar. So anyway, but what I did do is I used a rayon, and I had a very large buffalo plaid. I cut my pattern out ahead of time using a Swedish tracing paper. That way I have one front and I have one back and I have two sleeves, so that I can match my plaids based on where the notches are located, and I kind of do the math or whatever, so that I can get that large plaid matched up perfectly. But again, mine is in timeout, and it's going to probably come out of timeout by Friday. So sorry that she couldn't come to join us today. So.
Can I just say one thing about this Miracle Chalk and the Choco Liner? I have kind of a top 10 list of my favorite notions, and this has been up there for years and years and years. And some of the ladies, as I was traveling around, were not familiar with the Miracle Chalk. And what the Miracle Chalk is you can iron it off, you can use a burst of steam or just the heat of your iron, or you can blow it off with your canned air. And the reason that you want to use the little stubby Choco Liner is because it's very difficult to refill the big ones. So when you buy the stubby Choco Liner, it comes with just regular chalk. What you want to do is you want to undo this right here, and you want to dump the chalk that's in it out in the garbage can. Dump it out. Then you're going to fill it with the Miracle Chalk, because Miracle Chalk is the only chalk that will iron off. I use this more than I use my friction pins. Anytime it will show up, I use it. And the thing about these little stubby Choco Liners is they roll so easily. Look how easily it rolls, and it just is a wonderful, probably in my top 5 because I use it all the time. I love it. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is when we do, well, if you know me, I've always told you that I have a hard time patterning. And you know what? This week I was watching a tutorial from Jenny on Missouri Star, and she had a different name for it, and I can't remember what it is, but she is visually challenged too. Just like I am, I have to have checks and balances. And usually when I'm doing quilting, I'll take a Post-it and I'll pin it on. Well, guess what? They've come out with these wonderful quilt block markers, and they go from A to Z and from 1 to 10, I think. Yeah, 1 to 10 and A to Z. And guess what? Instead of using your Post-its, which you're wasting trees, if you're environmentally conscious, that's a great thing. But guess what? You can just pin them on your blocks or your rows or whatever, and you can keep everything organized so that you don't make those mistakes, and you don't have to use your wonderful seam ripper to rip them out. So that's something that I'm excited about as well. So now we need to give out a door prize.
Okay, and this door prize, I want to open this up and show you. It is absolutely fun. It is beautiful, but it's also fun. I thought, oh, well, I'll let you tell me what you think of this. I think it's not upside down. Oh my gosh, it's the Blues Brothers and Snowmen. Not everybody's going to know the Blues Brothers, I suppose, but look at that. It's a jazz band.
They can Google
Aren't they adorable?
it. They can Google
They can
it.
Google the Blues Brothers. But anyway, this goes to, and I'm sorry, I'm going to try really hard with this name. Danielle Saxton, or Deneen, excuse me, thank you. Deneen Saxton is the winner of the Snowman panel. Please contact us through Facebook and we will get this to you. Thank you. Want me to go with some next?
Do you want to go ahead and start with your tabletop quilts?
Well, actually, I'm not. Well, I can start with my tabletop quilts. Yes, let's do that because we've already gone through all this. Yes, tabletop quilts. They were a lot of fun. I'm actually going to go through the ones that I did. And the first one that I did was the Stars of Hope. Isn't that beautiful? Now with this, each one of these was a little bit different color, and I did not want to actually do that. I wanted mine to be more autumn than to be Christmassy. So what I did, excuse me, Anne, I'm going to walk your way. I actually used the All Hallows Eve fabric that we carried for a while, and I really liked the taupe with the kind of the muted orange. So it's not necessarily fall, but I guess it is more of a Halloween pumpkin. It's not really a scary Halloween. So I really did like this. One thing I want to bring up that I did do with this is we brought in the jumbo pack, the edge-to-edge quilting for your embroidery machine. Anne already talked about this briefly. But I did something a little bit different with it. I do have a long arm, and I do have robotics with quilting software, which is a must-have. You cannot do, just like embroidery, if you want to change a format, you have to have something that will read it. So I have quilting software, and there's many available if you have a long arm. I put this in, and I exported it back out in a quilting format that my long arm would read, and so what I did do is I stitched out the quilt on my long arm, and you can see from the back a little bit better that is ribbons and bows. So that was a lot of fun to do. I enjoyed doing that. So also, what else could I tell about that? Actually, you know, I cut everything out within a day or two of getting my projects, and I mark everything and I stack it. And I was going to bring up the markers also, that Anne uses them pretty much the same way I do. I mark my fabric, because you know you're cutting something that says 5 inches by width of fabric and then subcut into 5 by 2.5, and then you've got, now call it A. So you have to be careful of that. If you don't mark that, you're not going to necessarily remember, especially when you so drastically change all the colors. So that's a great way to remember what your colors are. So that was a lot of fun to make. If you notice, a lot of these have the same fabric in them. This is one that Lori Kendall made for us to showcase the fabric from the Better Not Pout line, and I think it's just beautiful. I love her rhinestones in here, and so anyway, shows all of the different fabrics that come in our little charm pack that you,
Right there.
oh, there it is. This little charm pack has 42 pieces in it. So also, I'll let Anne talk about this, but this is out of this book, but she used the same fabric. And then I did the Zigzag Runner, which was a lot of fun. It really did not take long to make that at all. So what I did was I used 32 pieces out of the 42 pieces. I just kind of set them out how I wanted them to go. And I was doing this at a retreat, so then I got a whole bunch of help, and we were all setting it out. The one thing none of us realized is we had to shift them over by one as soon as we got them together. It's like, oh, well, okay, it is what it is, and it looked great. One thing I did do is I kind of tried to turn the directional fabric towards the center, and then you sew your charm fabric together, and then you sew your rows together. I then added the batting and did what I call a stitch in the neighborhood. I did a stitch in the ditch, may not be appropriate because I can see some of my stitching. White was maybe not the best choice, and Anne and I had this discussion about using the white on this fabric, and I said, oh no, it didn't really come out the way I expected. So I would match it or use a clear. Anyway, then I did actually add the backing onto it after, and I just put a rectangle on it. I sewed them with the right sides together, and I trimmed them, clipped my edges, and turned it inside out, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to bind this. That's not, I suppose somebody who is very, very adventurous would be happy to do that, but I'm just not one of those people. So I turned it inside out, I pressed it, and I top stitched it, and it took me maybe an hour and a half to make the whole thing. So it was wonderful. And oh, I will bring this up. In one of my presentations, somebody said they did this two-sided. So they have a spring on the front and a winter on the back, and of course the front and back that is depending on the season. And they made it that way. So what a great idea. What a great idea. Do I have any other ones that I did out of that? I think I did those.
I think that's it.
That's all I did. I thought I did. All right, I did too.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you about what I did out of the book. This is actually the second book from Fons and Porter on tabletop quilts, and I did the first one a few years ago. And so I was just really excited about this book and the designs in it. One thing I did want to mention, these two samples, our coordinator Lori made them, and she made them from the book Charm Square.
Oh,
Third Time's a Charm Again book.
oh wow.
And so Charlotte had that book in September, so some of you may have that book at home, and so that's what those come out of. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you that I made the quilt that's on the cover of the book, and it's called the California Runner. The thing about this is, you know, I kind of have an addictive personality, and I get kind of fixated on one thing. These were so much fun to make because you can use scraps. And the first one that I did, and I'll pull this one down here so you can see, this is scraps left over from a quilt that I did in So Fun probably 10 years ago that had fat quarters. And I was so excited to be able to use those up. And then how many of you have scraps of batting that you need to use up? I was able to use up lots of scraps of batting. I use, usually I will use the fusible, Hobbs 80/20 fusible batting. So I had a lot of little pieces, and it made this, putting this together great. Now if you notice, you can make the border one solid color if you want, or I wanted to use up my scraps, so I have different colors. Each block is different colors here. So actually it could be a reversible table runner if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the process on doing these. Now, as I told you before, I've been doing this for many, many years. And I learned a long time ago, before we had these wonderful sewing machines that place things everywhere you want them, we had to learn to do placement by ourselves. So what I did was I started making templates. When I want something centered in a block or whatever, I will trace a template, and that is what I did with this, because you need to place your center here, and I don't want to have to measure here, measure here, measure here, measure here. So if Carrie can just come down here, I will show you how I did this. Now, you're going to cut your backing out, and it is a hexagon, and then you're going to flip it over to the wrong side. Then you're going to place your template here, and then this is the center of your block, and what it is it's just a piece of batting and your fabric. And so all you do is you just place it down like that. I hold it in place, I take that off, and then I hit it with the iron. And since this is fusible batting, it just glues it down. You can use a glue stick, or you don't even have to do that. But just because it was fusible batting, I did that. So then, what did I do with my, well, okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to press this down here, and you're going to go all the way around, and you want your corners to match. So you press all the way around once, and then you come back and you roll that again, and you, okay, let me get this. I need an extra hand here. So you roll that down and you bring that down. Now, can you see how you want that to come together? You want your points to meet right here. And guess what? That stiletto made it so easy. The thing that I like about the stiletto, and I did have mine, oh, did it fall off? The thing that I like about the stiletto is that I've used all kinds of stilettos, and this one you hold more like a pencil, so you have control. And then it has a really thin, almost like a needle type thing, and it's kind of rough here on the edge. So have you ever noticed Annie and how she maneuvers her fabric with the stiletto? It works perfectly, and you have a lot more control because you hold it like a pencil. So I could not have made my corners match. Now, sometimes they'll match automatically, but a lot of times you just have to give them a little shove this way or that way so that they match. And then when you're going to stitch these together, what you're going to do, you're going to have a finished hexagon here, and you're going to lay them out. And I laid them out on my cutting table, and you start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then last time I did Sew Fun, we sold some OSD tearaway tape, and so I just taped them, and then I took them to my sewing machine, and guess what? This is all done on monofilament thread and a small zigzag stitch. So you don't have to do anything by hand, and it doesn't even look, it just looks like you did it by hand because you can't see the thread. Now, you're supposed to do row 5, 4, 3, and you're supposed to stop after 3. I stopped after 2. I wanted to add 2, and then you could add another one if you really wanted a point on the end. But it's a great way to use your scraps and things like that. So that is that. The other thing that I did, a couple of things here. This is the, it's called Piece Poinsettias, and I decided to make a table runner out of it, and it is paper pieced. If you have never paper pieced, go on YouTube and learn how to use freezer paper in paper piecing. It makes it just perfect. And then if you notice, I've used the design that I told you was my favorite from the CD that we're selling. And this gives you just a lot of texture, and it looks like you did it on a long arm machine. And so that was really fun. And all of my bindings were done with the ruler, which is great. And then this is the last thing that I did, and it is called Stars of Hope.
Nope, this is called Key Lime Pie.
Oh, sorry, Key Lime Pie, that's right. Stars of Hope was yours. Too many things on my head. This is Key Lime Pie, and you can see that I've got a picture of it here.
It's extremely different looking when you change your fabric. It's
very
amazing.
different looking, and if you notice, I've got lots of little notes here because I made this out of scraps left over from table runners. It's all Hoffman glittery fabric here, and so what I did was I laid my fabric out, and then I made my little key, and I put the fabrics up together, and then pieced it. And then I have to tell you that I'm very proud of this because this is the second quilt that I've done with my Moxie using the paper pantographs. And it's not perfect, but you know what? It's great. And the thing that I love about it is I was worried about the tension because of all the metallic in the fabric, but it was turned out great. And I am very proud of it. And then I just have this fabric here on the back. So that
totally reminds me of the movie Frozen. I just love it.
Oh, true.
Yes. It's like so.
Okay, I think that
Well, I do want to bring up on our charm packs that we have them available. On the back it says 25% off your in-store fabric purchase. So that goes until December 31st. So if you buy a charm pack, you have a wonderful coupon for 25% off your fabrics. Let's see, anything else? Oh, we have something else we haven't brought up yet.
What's that?
We have our USB pigtail.
Oh, that's right.
I love this. Now I have several machines, and both the two of the big machines that I have each have 2 USB ports. I have found that, and I have been actually told by 1, Riva, and 2, our service department, that pulling out a USB and plugging it in constantly is actually not good for that port. 1, your USB stick may go out, which is fine, but I have a lot of designs on there I'm going to lose if that happens. But the alternative is to having my machine port go out, which I do not want to have happen. So if you were to put this into your machine, you can just leave it, and then you plug your USB stick in and out of this pigtail. So much safer for your machine than pulling a USB stick in and out of a machine, because these are computer processors, ladies. And what's the difference? In our computer, we can click a little button that says safe to pull out your USB. We don't have that on our sewing machine, so it's a good idea. These are $8.79 after your Sew Fund discount. If I was to destroy or hurt or do something to one of my USB ports in my sewing machine, it could potentially be a lot more money. I'm talking hundreds to thousands, depending on the machine that you have. If it's not under warranty, keep your warranties up, ladies. And even so with that, the electronics after, I'm not quite sure how that works. When we have a quality sewing, it's really good until a 20-year age range or something. But anyway, that's not important. But this is absolutely, I think, a must-have for your sewing room. It's also handy for a lot of other things. If you have, say you have a laptop that you can't easily get to, you can plug it in behind and then have this coming in front. I have a long arm that has 2 ports that are angled with a metal hood over the top. I'm literally on my head trying to get that USB stick into the right angle, so I can just plug this in and leave it. It is not in the way of my sewing at all. So, yes.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
As I was traveling around and showing that, I had a customer come up and say that her USB port, something was happening with it, and so someone told her to buy one of these, and she said she bought it, she plugged it in, and she had no issues. So I'm going to use mine on my icon, because that's how I transfer the designs. But on my brother, I transfer them virtually, so I don't have to worry about that.
Wirelessly, yeah, that's a really nice thing to have. Yeah.
One thing that I did want to, we are finished. We're so glad that you joined us. But one thing I wanted to just reiterate is we are excited for our holiday open houses, and we encourage you to either, you can sign up online, or you can call the store. If you don't want to sign up online, you can call the store and sign up. We are looking forward to seeing you. We will, have protocols in for, the COVID regulations and things like that. We need to wear a mask, but we're wanting to have just a really fun, a relaxing time with our customers. So please sign up, and we will see you then.
Thanks for coming.